Hi, I'm Chiu, founder and CEO of Boba Network. Boba Network is a new Ethereum layer 2 that allows developers to build much more interesting dApps. And the reason we created Boba is because we believe crypto has the potential to be the most inclusive financial system that we've created. But we're not there yet, we're far from it, right? And part of the reason is because the technology is not ready, the infrastructure is not scalable enough yet. And also, very importantly, developers, what they can do in a smart contract today, it's very limiting. You can only do integer-only operations, and anything that is non-trivial in terms of computation requirements, they become too expensive and too slow very, very quickly, which is why we built Boba with the ability to connect your smart contracts with any program that you want to run off-chain on a platform like AWS. So now as a developer, you can have the best of both worlds. You have part of your workload that runs on-chain in a smart contract, and you have your more compute-intensive workload that runs off-chain. You can do things like a machine learning trained model that is invoked by your smart contract. You can run really advanced data analytics off-chain. You can pull in real-world data feeds through hybrid compute into your Boba smart contract. The possibilities are limitless, especially if you're building games and metaverse on Boba. You want to take advantage of these features. And the net result is you're going to see much more interesting dApps on a scalable platform like Boba that benefits a lot more users. Oh, that's a fun question. In the early days of DeFi, where a lot of people got lucky, they made a lot of money. Of course, that attracted a lot more demand for Ethereum, and Ethereum itself became too expensive for those who came later. And when I saw that, I was like, that's not fair, right? And if all this invention and creativity that led to this whole new Web3 infrastructure ended up just creating a new class of elite wealthy, then what's the point, right? So I was really pissed at that situation and thought, well, one of the problems, of course, the underlying root causes is the blockchain infrastructure that we have today is just not scalable enough. It can't handle all that demand. That's what started us down this journey of creating Boba to help scale blockchain infrastructure. And we started with Ethereum because Ethereum is the largest one. And the name Boba really came out of the belief that the benefits of crypto ought to be available to everybody, not just to a few. And that's why we chose Boba as a brand, because Boba is a very approachable drink. It's not pretentious, it's very accessible, and it always brings a smile to your face when you drink Boba. And that's the kind of emotional reaction we want our users to have when they use Boba. As well, we want Boba Network to also bring a smile to your face. And we want to be a friendly, approachable crypto infrastructure, crypto platform, as opposed to an alien technology that speaks a foreign language that you don't understand, that turns off mainstream users. So that's why we chose the brand Boba, and it's worked out really well. A lot of people have told us, oh my gosh, we love the brand, it's so refreshing, fun, and approachable, and that's exactly the way we wanted the brand to come across. So at Boba, we really care about accessibility, inclusivity, and that extends to both users and developers. And when it comes to developers, oftentimes, you have a couple of really brilliant builders who want to start something, but they just need a little bit of help, both in terms of just money to cover the initial expenses, even to pay for audits, to pay for deployment of your contracts on mainnet, and also to connect with other builders who have done this before, so that they can learn from their experience. And that's why we have created something called Boba Bar. A Boba Bar is an accelerator program that matches builders, first-time builders, with more experienced builders who could share what they've learned in building the project, in launching, in go-to-market, acquiring users, and how to design the tokenomics with the newer founders, newer builders. At the same time, we also have created a developer grants program that provides a little bit of capital, 5K, 10K, to help these newer builders to just get started, get something deployed. Start with the testnet and go to mainnet, deploy on Boba, and then start learning from user feedback and keep evolving their protocol. And what we found is oftentimes just that little bit of help in the earliest stages of these first-time builders means a lot to them and gives them the confidence to take on more risk, to go try out these new ideas that they want to see emerge in the world. The industry today, on one hand, it's very vibrant compared to where it was 3 years ago, right? We're seeing a lot more creativity, a lot more experiments, new ideas being implemented and rolled out very, very quickly. So that's very encouraging. At the same time, I think we still have a long way to go in terms of, one, security, right? And we continue to see a lot of vulnerabilities being discovered, sometimes by white hat hackers, which is great. They give us a chance to fix them. But other times, these vulnerabilities are taken advantage of, and that could lead to losses up to hundreds of millions of dollars. And these vulnerabilities don't give mainstream users a lot of confidence in jumping in. So that represents a psychological barrier to adoption for crypto to go mainstream. And then of course, rug pulls, right? So how do we prevent rug pulls so that innocent users who are not sophisticated enough to read smart contracts feel confident that when they yield farm with a protocol, they're not going to suddenly lose the portfolio overnight. So that's a problem that we still need to solve. And then there are the communications challenges where we in the industry speak our own language, use a lot of jargon that simply are incomprehensible to those who are not crypto native. And if we keep talking about what we build in our own language as opposed to a language that non-crypto natives understand, then we are going to be stuck in this circular economy. We're just talking amongst ourselves. We're not really expanding the pie, and certainly not extending the benefits of crypto to everybody. So that's a communications challenge that has to be overcome. We need to be more intentional about how we communicate and to whom. And then lastly, the cultural challenges. Like as builders ourselves, we need to be careful about the kind of culture that we're creating around our projects, right? And we don't want to unintentionally end up creating an exclusive, cliquey club that really shuts off the rest of the world. And now some projects might want to do that intentionally, and that's their strategy, that's fine. But if that's not part of your strategy, you're building something that you want to go mainstream and have mass appeal, then I think it's important for builders to think about what they stand for, the core values and the culture that they're creating in their community from day one. Let's face it, in crypto, without a community around your project, you're dead, right? And community means people coming together. And when that happens, a culture is always created. The question really becomes, is this a culture that you intentionally created, that's something that you want, that reflects what you're trying to achieve? Or is this just a culture that happened because of the people that self-selected into this project, but it's not really something that you want to create? So that it is in that sense, it's similar to when you start a company, launch a startup, you want to be intentional about what culture you're creating. Similarly, when you're starting a DAO, you got to be really intentional and think through what kind of community members you want to attract, who in turn will define the culture that will sometimes even outlive the founders of the project. Bridges, whether they should exist or not. The underlying question behind that is, do we believe we're going to be living in a multi-chain world or a single chain world or one dominant chain? And there's been a lot of debates around that. I think the more likely outcome is going to be a multi-chain world, and here's why. When it comes to designing a distributed system or decentralized system, there's really no one architecture that can optimize for all of the design attributes, because these design goals are often in conflict with each other. So you're living in this tension, and as the designer, as an architect of these systems, you need to be making trade-offs. Like, do you care more about performance and latency or decentralization, for example? And that means there will be different chains that exist, each of which optimizing for a different design attribute, appealing to a different set of applications. And if that's the case, then I think bridges will continue to exist, because capital is like water, it wants to flow. And how do we bring capital from one chain to another in a multi-chain world other than using bridges? So then the question becomes, all right, what are the design choices that we can make around bridges, and which of these choices would minimize the vulnerability of these bridges, or minimize the losses if and when these bridges are compromised? So I think it's probably inevitable for bridges to continue to exist. And given that assumption, then a lot more research needs to go into how do we minimize the attack surface of bridges? How do we make bridges less appealing to attackers? Is there a way to avoid, for example, an accumulation of assets in bridging contracts themselves? If we could do that, then they become much less attractive as an attack target. Not easy problems to solve, but I don't think we can just wish away the existence of bridges. I want to go back to the why behind what we do. The reason we created Boba was not to just create an Ethereum layer 2, because if that were the case, then we're redundant, right? There are other layer 2 solutions that already exist. Yes, we have features that are unique to us. We are enabling developers to build much more interesting dApps on Boba, and that's important. We are pushing the frontier of what you can do in Web3. No doubt about that. But more important than technology is the motivation behind it. We believe that crypto has the potential to be the most inclusive financial system we've created. It's truly permissionless, right? You don't need permission to participate. But the current designs, because of the cost and the complexity of even just getting your money on chain, means only very, very few people can access these benefits. So our mission is really to take away these barriers to adoption one by one, so that until everybody on the planet, if they choose to, they can benefit from crypto, so that they can enjoy a higher degree of financial freedom, more agency over their own economic future. And that's what drives us. And we are in a hyperscale mode right now at Boba Network. We're hiring across the board, from engineering to marketing, business development, operations, community building. We'd love to talk to you if you're interested in working together, in making this vision a reality. So if you believe in extending the benefits of crypto to everybody on the planet, and you're passionate about this mission, and you love building, you love storytelling, you love making things work, you love making connections with other like-minded builders, come join us. Talk to us. Reach out to us on Twitter. We're at Boba Network. Thank you. Something in French, merci beaucoup.